Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to take a look at money market and the practice problem with the money market. This is actually from an AP test, so that's actually where this one comes from. It says a drop in credit card fees causes people to use credit cards more often for transactions, and so they demand less money. So that's kind of the prompt. And so right off the bat, we know money demand goes down. Using a correctly labeled graph of the money market, show how the nominal interest rate would be affected by that. So we're going to just start it and then show a downward shift, and it shouldn't be too bad. So. Now, the trickiest part with this is actually that many students mix up the money market with the other market that we're going to learn, which is called loanable funds. So that's the really hard part. Supply of money, demand for money. We've got a nominal interest rate here, and we know that the demand falls. So the amount of money in the system is the same, right? Q star, but the interest rate should decrease. And so that's us showing how it would be affected. Given the interest rate change in part A, what happens to bond prices? So that's just a quick test of, do you remember that? If the interest rate goes down, we'd say, therefore, bond prices go up. Identify an open market operation the Fed could use to keep the interest rate constant at the level that it existed before the drop in credit card fees, and explain how it would work. So, what happened was the interest rate went down. So what the Fed's going to do is push the interest rate up. So how could they make the interest rate go up? So this is kind of working backwards here, right? So Fed wants to increase the interest rate. So therefore, right, we would say that they would want the money supply to get smaller, right? If we wanted to get back to this level, right, kind of thinking about this level of whatever that interest rate is, the only way that we could get back over to there is by shifting the money supply to the left and going to S1. And that would go from, basically we started at point A, we went to point B, we go to point C, right? So the interest rate goes right back up to where it is. So we would need the money supply to go down. Now, how do we do that, right? It says open market operation. So what's going to make the money supply smaller? Well, that's selling bonds. So therefore, sell bonds. And that explanation is perfectly fine, right? Where you say, like, selling the bonds makes the money supply smaller, and therefore it pushes the interest rate back up. The next part says, in country Z, the required reserve ratio is 10%. Assume the central bank sells 50 million in bonds on the open market. Calculate the change in reserves. Calculate the maximum possible change in money supply. Blah 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 blah. So if they sell 50 million in securities, securities is another word for bonds, then the change, right, means that their Fed is selling bonds, and so they're deleting money out of bank reserves. They're saying, we're going to give the banks bonds, and we're going to take your reserves. And so the change in reserves, right, initially at least, is negative 50 million. Now, the maximum possible change in the money supply, we take this negative 50 million and we multiply it by the money multiplier. And we know that, the money multiplier is 1 over 0.1, so that's 10. And so times 10 equals negative $500 million. The last part here says, using a correctly labeled graph of the money market, show how they do that. So do this, QM, I, S, and demand for money. And it's okay if you forget to put the M's here. I think it's really important if you put QM and I. I is essential. You won't get credit on an AP if you don't put the I. But the M's on demand and supply, it's useful to do it, but it's not essential. So we've got interest rate, I star, Q star, and then we know that they're selling bonds, so that makes the money supply smaller. So we're going to shift this curve to the left, S1 over Q1, and that has the effect of pushing up the interest rate. All right, hopefully that helped you. See you next time.